Despite our 50 years living together, every day he tells me that he loves me, and I respond to him in the same way. But I think this is a rather unusual thing among modern couples. It's often taken for granted that couples must love each other, but the mere fact that they say so to each other it's quite nice.
Yes, I'm convinced that the enduring quality of a marriage comes through in the details of everyday life. With the years, one begins to have a different vision of things. There's a kind of break, which I find quite natural. When I was a younger fellow, I was very active, extremely agile. I'm a little clumsy now. I used to get excited about some things. Now those same things excite me less. I'm more enthused now by activities that require a slower pace of life than the ones I used to enjoy.
When we were younger, George used to work all day and all night, so we had very little time together for talking. And then, once he retired, we came to a sort of tacit agreement that we would not do things separately, that we would always be together, to make up for the years when we couldn't talk to each other.
She was the one whose ideas carried the most weight. I was away from home most of the time, a lot of it at night, but also during the day, and she began to create this wonderful world for me, a world that contained my children, whom we always planned for. But when a child becomes a reality, they bring a new impact, and a new environment begins to take shape, which is much richer. I'm sure that she did all she could to create this environment for me, and that's marvelous.
There were many things I couldn't do because of his work schedule, which was very intensive. I didn't have the liberty then to do the kinds of things I do now, for example. Nowadays, I'm totally committed to my yoga work. I'm a yoga teacher, and George helps me out a lot.
At my time of life, one has to accept the fact that one's getting old and adapt to one's age. I live my life peacefully. I'm very thankful for all that life has given to me.
I feel as if I've got a lot to do yet, in spite of an awareness that there isn't too much time left, and I would like to study. I feel, looking ahead, that it doesn't matter what tomorrow might bring. I'm enjoying one day at a time, fully in depth and scope. The simple things. The older I get, the more I value the simple things of life. So that's the stage I am at now. I feel as though I'm still planning for my life. Never mind the finishing line. The important thing is that I've always got projects on the go.
Ours is a relationship in which we knew a lot about each other from the very beginning. This has provided a foundation for our present way of life, which is firmly tied into our background history. The ties become stronger and stronger with the passage of time. I think that's why we've both contributed to the way we live. And in this sense, Corina has helped me a great deal, because we've been very busy doing things together, so to speak.
On important occasions, I can always count on him. He provides me with a foundation of solid rock. I believe this has a lot to do with the kind of respect that we have for each other. When I talk about respecting the other person, it doesn't have anything to do with submitting to the other person, but rather to understanding each other's capabilities and our moral stature as a couple, respecting each other's tastes, etc.
When our children left home, it was difficult, because our entire routine was altered. And we're talking about a very enriching routine, one that we didn't fully appreciate while it was going on. It was only when the kids began to leave home that we did. There was, inevitably, this void left behind, and you just find refuge in your own things. Nothing else, just the things that you have.
It wasn't difficult when the children left home. I mean, it wasn't difficult for our relationship. It was just sad, that's all. When my son got married, he went to live nearby, so we still see each other quite often. It was harder when Corina, my daughter, left. We didn't have much money then to keep travelling to go and visit them, and on one occasion we went 6 whole years without seeing each other. My daughter Corina lived in Paris. We have a very good relationship with our sons, and also with our daughter-in-law and son-in-law. However, I didn't have a satisfactory relationship with my mother, so it's very hard and sad. It was a very sad period of my life. Some people say that you're bound to repeat with your own children the same bad relationship that you had with your own mother, but I think, on the contrary, that this experience teaches you, because you had a poor relationship with your own mother, you won't do the same to your own daughter as your mother did to you.
Unquestionably, when we compare ourselves with today's young people, we were very much more rigid, much more fixed. We had a bundle of prejudices that stood in our way.
As I am a yoga teacher, I don't separate people by their age. I just combine those aged 60 and 70 with those aged 80, 60, 40, and in between with those in their 40s. I think we have to live together with people of all ages. This helps people from all generations to better understand each other. I reckon that you have to live with people of other ages in order to understand them. All generations should mix.
As far as sex is concerned, when one's younger, one's much more active, obviously. And with the passage of time, things begin to slow down a bit. But I don't believe that this should bother any couple, because this is a parallel development. Now, if one begins to wonder whether this slowing down is for better or worse, well, I think it's for the worse. I don't like it one bit. But it's reality. Hard luck. There's nothing you can do about that.
Well, I disagree a bit with George on this, because I think that when one's had a good and normal sexual life, there's no reason to be resentful about these changes. On the contrary, you say to yourself, I had a wonderful sex life at the right time. Oh, we're still fine, really.
We're still trying, she means.
I don't miss sex that much. I think women are different in that sense. If I had an incompetent husband, perhaps, I might be lamenting now and saying to myself, God, I didn't enjoy it or have a good time, with a certain degree of bitterness. But now, on the contrary, I'm completely relaxed about the present. I'm just fine. But I would say that when our children grew up, we enjoyed a more relaxed life in that respect. It did allow us to enjoy our sexuality. Not that we experienced any problem before, but it's just that there were obstacles in the way. We had a phase in our lives that was very good.
There's the relaxed atmosphere. We can peacefully enjoy all kinds of activities besides sex because we've got compatible tastes. Yes, that enjoyment brings its own satisfaction. For example, I love to read, love listening to music. Listening to music really moves me. And I think the same thing applies to Corina. She also enjoys reading. She reads a great deal, a lot more than I do.
There's a nice feeling about being close to each other, touching each other, even if we don't have sex. I mean, at night, for example, we often go to sleep holding hands. We still kiss each other sometimes as we go around the house. And this is very much a daily thing for us. There is no physical or total separation just because we're old.
I had a wonderful working life, so retiring really caused me to age. I think that retirement is the most horrendous occurrence in the life of a human being. One has to stay active all the time.
When George retired, I was very happy. Well, for me, it was great. It always amused me when friends of my age used to say, "Having your husband at home, what a bore," as though their husbands really bothered them. I heard this sort of comment loads of times. But for me, it was the exact opposite. It was a joy, it was a happiness to have George around the house so that we could share more. It was great.
But this was purely a personal thing. The fact that I felt out of my normal habitat, coming from a very intensive type of work, and then, all of a sudden, to come to a full stop, to nothing. It was a very sudden, very dramatic change. And that change affected me quite a lot in the beginning. Later I began to weather the storm a little better. I began to get used to my new way of life.
You must try to focus on all the things that have made you happy. And when you recall wonderful thoughts and memories, you store them again in your head, and this automatically displaces negative ideas. These days I have my head full of such positive thoughts of the star moments of my life.
I fail to understand why a healthy old man should be unable to contribute something positive to a human group. You can contribute experience and still do a lot of things that are within your reach. But you also have the other side to this. There are people who just let go and begin to get older alone, feeling their old age very, very deeply. And that can be extremely painful. But in our case, Corina is the one who has the most to do. I just help out. Nowadays, I'm officiating as housekeeper.
Yes, our roles have switched somewhat. Now I do the work, and he does the household chores. I believe that it's very important to be tolerant of each other because nobody's perfect. It's not a question of looking for perfection in your partner, but rather of accepting him with his minor defects. I say minor defects because I wouldn't have accepted them if they were big defects. Well, for example, if he'd been an alcoholic or something like that. I think that he's also accepted me with my own defects. Well, we're always trying to improve, to do better for the other. It's a permanent job. Just like with plants, you need to water your love with small gestures, with affectionate manners. I think you must be generous in this sort of thing. Well, holding hands, for example, feeling each other's physical and affectionate touch. Being 70 years old doesn't mean you can't do these things.
There are some couples who might come to hate each other, and I've seen that, and that's something that you can't remedy just like that. Sometimes the only way out is to separate. And in that instance, I don't think that divorce is a bad thing. I don't know what Corina thinks about that.
Every individual should be allowed to do what is right for them. If things went wrong at some stage between you and your partner and the relationship just didn't work out, then you have the right to seek a new life. I think.
The worst problem of all was my mother-in-law's illness, because it wasn't just she who got sick, it affected everyone. It had deep repercussions on us because it involved us as well. She had a very advanced degree of senile dementia.
Ever since we married, we lived with my mother. It so happened that during the first years of our marriage, my father was swindled. We had no choice but to make them live with us to enable them to survive. My father was forced to pay out all he had and to sell all he had. It was due to a big fraud perpetrated on him, and all this was very difficult for me too. I believe that pain helps. It teaches you to value the simple things. It brings you closer to the other person.
I enjoyed this stage of my life. I enjoy life, my way of life. For me, life's not just surprising. I find it marvelous, extremely beautiful. But I too enjoy the really simple things. To be able to observe nature, for instance, that's a wonderful thing.
We have been so happy because of our ability to enjoy simple things. Somehow we've always managed to enjoy the simple things of life, as George said. Many people try desperately to have fun in a spectacular way. But it's inside our own selves that we find our treasure, in the routine aspects of our lives that we weave into our relationship.
It's true that we have thoroughly enjoyed our life together, and we're planning to continue to have a good life and to enjoy it right till the end. I haven't the least doubt about that. Especially since at our age, there's nothing we can spoil anymore.